Welcome back to Oneself. My name is Stephen Marr. With me always is Adam Bartleman, but we have another guest with us today. We're very excited to talk to Pat Greer. Thank you so much for being here. And we're having on people we admire and we love and respect. So Pat's a friend of Adam's, and we're really just excited to talk to you, Pat. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me and asking me.
Yeah, our pleasure. Our pleasure. So, folks, Pat is quite experienced in the with food, right? And, background in food. And before we hopped on, Pat, I mentioned, food's just a powerful way to bring people together. And I would just love your perspective on that. You've been doing it for a long time, and what have you taken away from that with just your experience with food and working with that?
So often we jump into food because it's an avenue for comfort. And I've explored that over decades because I used to get in trouble for being in the kitchen when I was little. I was a latchkey kid, so I got myself home and then I'd, play around in the kitchen, and I never could figure out why I got in trouble until the smells. So, I was just busted frequently. And it was okay. I mean, it wasn't a serious bust or anything, but I have always been interested in food, and my father was, and he grew up in East Texas. Um, his father, his family, they were all pharmacists. So there's this real chemical reaction thing, I think, that goes on in our little segment of the family brain on my father's side.
Yeah.
And my grandmother's kitchen was always fabulous, always smelled incredible. And there was a lot there. There was like a pie safe. There was this big bin that had flour in it. I mean, there was just, it was old. I mean, there was a well that was literally just right off the kitchen, where we drew well water. And it was an experience that I didn't realize it was an experience until I got older and really started appreciating everything that was there. My uncle lived there in the house. That's another story, but he had a huge garden on the side of the house and this big fig tree that I would go and sit in the middle of every year. And I could just sit there, and it was hot and it was quiet, and I could pick figs, and just my mouth waters thinking about him, pick these figs and just sit there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was an experience. And then the dirt was red. He grew peppers. I remember walking in the red dirt, with the peppers and the tomatoes and the cucumbers and all these different, and black-eyed peas. And they had a big veranda, and we'd sit on the porch in a porch swing and shuck corn and peas, and all these things were things that fed us in ways that were beyond the nourishment of it. It was nourishing, very, but it filled our souls. There was always cornbread almost every meal. My uncle that lived down the street, aunt and uncle, raised quail. They raised cattle and they raised quail.
Wow.
We'd have quail for breakfast. I don't eat meat anymore, but it was, it was a huge piece, and gravy, and there's just all these different elements. And I learned so much from that and didn't even know it until I started really getting into food. My oldest daughter and I started a food co-op on her front porch, mostly because we wanted organic food all the time that was reasonably priced. So we found someone, I mean, just from talking on the phone and me flipping around a bunch of parsley, there was a name on the back of the parsley of a local organic distributor in Houston. So I said, just, we can get a few friends together. We can figure this out. So we called, and they said, yeah. He says, I said, are there any co-ops in town? He goes, yeah, they're all over the place. I said, oh, can you send me a list? And he goes, well, where are you? And I said, well, we're inside the loop. The loop is 610 that goes around Houston. And so I said, we're inside the loop. He goes, oh, well, there's not any inside the loop. I'm like, oh, bummer. And he goes, well, why don't you start one? And one of my blessing and curse elements is I'm like, okay. So we started it on our front porch with, I think, about 5 or 6 friends because
Wow.
we figured we could, because we were already buying a local share of local organic produce from a farmer who dropped off at a friend's house over in the Heights, not too far from us.
Mm.
And we would, even that was so big that we would divide that. So the farmer wouldn't sell to us at the time because she was just like, oh, no, I'm not going to compete with these people that I've been with for years. And, that's fair. So we just picked up produce from there. And we, figured out how we could meet a minimum, kind of figured out what everybody would like. And we started having produce delivered. And it grew really, really quickly. Like we grew off the porch within, I think, about 4 or 5 months. And
Wow.
then we grew, one of our neighbors had a house with this big garage with a room off the side. And so we moved into there. And then more people came. Like somewhere I have a picture. I didn't think of bringing, looking for those, but we have a picture of a day when our supplier called and said, "Hey, this truck got rejected at Whole Foods with all these cases of cherries, organic cherries. Do you want them?" I'm like, "Well, what's going to happen to them if we don't?" They said they're going to trash. I was like, "Oh my God, no! Yes, bring them." So we figured it out,
Yeah.
and we had stacks of cherries. So, I mean, everybody got cherries, whether they wanted them or not. And then we figured out what to do with them afterwards. And we had a
Yeah.
relationship with a place called Stone Soup that was supplying produce to people who didn't have access to fresh produce.
Mm.
So, things just kind of fell together with the
Yeah.
food and with excess. And I kind of have an excessive and compulsive behavior. With my addictive behavior, I do have, just a whole addictive behavior thing in there. It kind of funnels into work. And with the excess we were having, I started making crackers because we found out the people that we were donating food to, they didn't know what to do with the greens, so they were throwing them away. And, once again, there was that, my God, no, you can't. I came from a
Can't
family,
waste
you
it.
just don't throw things away.
Yeah.
So I started making raw crackers because I was on a raw food diet at the time, a raw vegan food diet. So we were making crackers and there was too many. So we started packaging them and selling them on the front porch. And then everything just continued to stack on top of each other and grow. It's kind of a long answer to your question. But in the midst of all that, it was a service to the people that we love and to our bodies
Yep.
and just to ourselves and our soul to be able to do that. And I know that just came from my background
Mm.
because in this small town in East Texas, whenever there was uh, someone that was ill or a funeral or anything, all this food would just appear. And it was,
Course.
everybody kind of had their specialties. So there would just be everything. No one wanted for anything
Mm.
that I thought. Uh, there was disparity there, and I didn't recognize it as that until I was older, and started seeing that, some people were treated very differently. And you don't understand what that means as a kid. And as an adult, it really made me weep.
Yeah.
Mm.
And in the midst of all that, food brought people together.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
That's
really
really
beautiful. It sounds like you were brought up in like a culinary laboratory of sorts.
Sort of, sort of. My dad was a big experimenter and he would
Uh,
make the weirdest stuff. And some of it, I had to leave the house when he would
yeah.
make this peanut butter thing. And then I found out it was really something that people in the South made. It was like a peanut butter spread stew kind of thing and had vinegar and all this stuff in it. And it was so weird. But he always experimented with stuff. And we had a huge I mean, huge to be. We had a big orchard in our backyard, peach trees. He grew grapes. We
Wow.
had plums. We had pears. We had all these different things. And then we canned them every year. So it was a big laboratory. And I think that's what the crackers eventually evolved into my commercial kitchen. And that was always a big fun laboratory for me. And mercifully, I had people that would make me or follow me around and we'd write things down
Mm.
because I just throw things together and see what happens. And it, it just kind of worked for a long time. Yeah, we closed it and it was 20 years. We had it open for 20 years.
Wow.
Wow.
We got to serve a whole lot of people all over the United States. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Pat, I've been thinking a lot about what true wealth means,
Sure.
even the systems that we have in place. I'm like, okay, like say, everyone's struggling right now. I feel like, a lot of people are hurting, economically, financially, whatever you want to call it. But then I'm like, okay, like say banks collapse tomorrow, like they did in 2008 or whatever. What truly matters? And it's like, okay, if everyone eats, is it that big of a deal? Right? Like if everyone has the ability to eat, is we're okay, right? You know what I mean? Like what is true wealth? And to me, and it's just, and so I come back to like food, right? Like and good food, right? We all know the pesticides and glyphosate and the gluten allergies all around the US. And so what do you think about that when like in terms of like food just becoming equated and good food equating to like true wealth in your mind?
It's like the purest form because it's something that came from someone's heart and they took the extra effort to do it without chemicals or without harmful chemicals. I mean, everything is essentially a chemical.
Right, right.
But learning these growing practices from permaculture, from aquaculture, from all these different things that it's something feeding something else that grows into excess that then we get to consume. It's taking care of the soil in a way that the soil is so alive and the soil's microbiome stretches for, I mean, all around the earth.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
can trace it.
Yep.
So all of that is wealth, and loving each other enough to share all of that is wealth for our soul.
Absolutely.
And wealth takes on a completely different form when we think of it as a nourishing piece. Because it's not about how many dollars are in your purse or in your bank, because there's a good possibility that things are going to fall apart. They kind of are already. And that's
Yeah.
nature. I mean, things just do. It's it's not that they fall apart, they live their life.
The life cycle, yeah, of societies,
It's a
right? Like
life
we, we
cycle.
we have life cycles as humans, and yeah, societies have life cycles as well. Totally.
And we can contribute to its next life.
Mm.
Soil is you can only use a pot of soil for so long without it needing nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
So soil has to be nourished just as we do. We don't have to do much. I heard this a few days ago, just our breathing is an act of living and doing that
Mm-hmm.
is unconscious. So
Yeah.
this unconscious thought is when consciousness comes in,
Mm-hmm.
and then everyone's fed. When you walk in a room sometimes and like the whole room just quiets, whether it was you that did it or another person, it doesn't matter. We're all one at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then as that expands, that can't stay in any walls. It goes out and is felt everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's unconscious consciousness,
Hmm. And it connects us all.
and it connects us all.
Yeah.
And we need to know how to grow stuff. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
creative is in all of our souls. I don't care who anybody is, a lawyer, a doctor, anybody. We have to know how to sustain lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're losing a lot of skills. as people could become highly specialized, right? You know,
Mhm.
into a certain career. It's like you go to school for a certain career path, whether it's a doctor, yeah, lawyer, you know, whatever, and you fine tune this career path for 12 years maybe to become a working professional. But it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, do you know how to feed yourself? Do you know how to, you know, do an oil change on a car or something like that? Like, you know, a
Exactly.
skill that you might need, right?
Yeah.
If things get worse, I hope they don't get worse, you know. But if push came to shove, like, could you feed your family?
But if
And we're
they
so
do,
go for it. Sorry.
okay,
Yeah,
we're still here and can help each other, take care of each other.
Yeah.
exactly. Coming back to community always. It's like even like when we talked with Dan and he mentioned the Gabor Mate quote, which is the
Mhm.
opposite of addiction is
It's
community.
community.
And this is it, you know, as we perhaps delve deeper into separation consciousness in order to get to the place of remembering that we are all one,
Mhm.
it does come back to community eventually. And and yeah, and then recognizing the cycles that we go through
Mhm.
in order to arrive back there. And one thing I wanted to ask Pat, which we've talked about a little bit in the past personally, was the cycle of any cycles that you see now, like that have come through in the past. Anything that's repeating. So in terms of whether it's food and organic farming, co-ops, community gardens, like do we have we seen any cycles that are repeating that are coming up now and seeming novel perhaps to younger generations, but really are things that you've seen come and go before?
Well, farming has, the farmers always have their cycles.
Hmm.
I am hearing about more younger people, and younger people to me are people your age, and maybe some like 25 to 35-year-old people that are looking at buying some land to, to not only protect it, but to be able to grow it in a
Mm.
way that they can sustain their families and others. I think there's
Yeah.
more, I wasn't alive during World War II. My parents lived through all that. My dad was in the war and went to England. The Vietnam War happened in my lifetime. The Korean War happened when I was born. So, these wars bring a different kind of realization to people. So,
Mm.
yes, within the cycles of warring, people look to how do we take care of our own.
Right.
Even with our own being around the world, it's more how do we take care of our families. So I think within a cycle of bureaucracy, there is also people that are bucking it to a point. It's almost protesting to a
Mm.
point that they're doing things with the land. They're
Mm.
looking at sustainable energies. We had a family dinner last night. One of my granddaughter, who's 30, one of her friends is visiting for a month before she drives to Portland. She's an engineer and she's going to work for a sustainable energy company that is working with wave technology,
Mm.
ocean
Wow.
waves. And so I was just like, wow. So my partner, my sweetie, is a geophysicist. So he was able to, and studied at Stanford. He was able to ask questions about that because he has seen so many cycles in his
Mm.
lifetime. He's 14 years older than I am. So he was actually lived through the World War II. So it's, all of these elements are happening all at the same time. There's a war somewhere in the world always until
Yeah.
there won't be.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think it's within that people look at how we can best save our resources. So, and it's not about saving our resources. It's like nurturing them. I heard just on the way over here on NPR that H1N1 has hit Australia and New Zealand. and they're very concerned about endangered bird species that are there, the loss of life.
Mm.
And it's, so these things just have this travel effect that's fascinating. And, within that, the oak trees are still here, the pine
Right.
trees are still here, the redwoods are still here. And there's such wisdom in nature that I think that us trying to, attempting to help it, control it,
Control the
whatever
cycles.
we think we're doing, watching it is going to give us the information we need for
Mm.
ourselves. Because our breath is feeding the trees.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
is taking that and converting it into energy.
Yeah.
It just flows through us.
Yeah, and I would say it's like it comes back to stillness, where it's like we're always like you're saying, we're trying to go out and we're trying to act and we're trying to control things, but the age old advice is always bring you back to stillness, and it's from that
Because
place.
it's from that place that we can see when there's someone
Yeah.
else that needs something. What I have a very recent big regret, and I didn't act on something that I could have, and I still am trying to figure out why that happened. There's the homeless population here is, I don't know if it's big or small, but it's everywhere. And in our neighborhood, a busy intersection, there's a woman that kind of lives on one of the corners. There's a number of other people that have recently kind of encamped there. There was a woman that I hadn't seen before, older, and she had some physical limitations, and she was trying to get across the street, and there wasn't a green light for her, and she'd made it like to, this much space between a turn lane, turning left and the cars coming this way, and she was standing there, and I did, and the light was green going, whizzing by her, and I didn't stop my car and stop traffic, and it makes me sick to this day. I know I'll have another opportunity, and I hope I'm awake enough and still enough that I will just act instead of thinking, because it's when we think that we stop. Because
Mm.
then, all this is going on, and life is happening all over here.
Yes.
So it's a gut reaction. And in
Yep.
stillness, we can just do. It's when you reach out and catch the ball that's coming at you, just like boom.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just there.
Yeah.
Right. Thinking about it gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
Often.
And in cycles, like I get to see, like my granddaughter's 30, my grandson's 27. He's in DC now and working, just graduated from college, and he's a legislative aide. So he's getting to see all these things. So on my wall, we have a wall at home where we just have kids and grandkids and great grandchildren, and just pictures and events and just things up. I have a piece of paper about this big that he designed his very first garden in
Wow.
for our backyard. And we planted carrots. And I remember, when he pulled his first carrot out, he couldn't believe it. I mean, he was probably 4 years old. And I still have that image. And that, so when he got on when his congressman that he's working for is on the agriculture committee, and he got that portfolio, he let me know, and I sent him that picture. I'm like, here's your ag.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Remember
So-
your roots.
Yeah. So I say that all the time. Remember where you came from. Remember
Yeah.
where you came from. And that's important. Those little bitty elements that I can remind people of. We worked the farmer's market for years. I don't know, 15 years. And my grandkids grew up with, helping there or businessing there. And he helped me in the kitchen. I mean, they both did. So those are elements and cycles that, life is happening whether we're still or not. And when we're still, we get to really feel it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
One other one that I know I've asked you about before, but I still find very interesting, and Stephen and I have talked a lot about, is sort of the cycles of the spiritual awareness and
Mhm.
and right now plant medicine. And I know, Vietnam War, 60s hippie revolution. There was a big shift around attitudes toward psychedelic drugs and plant medicines. And what do you, if you care to share, what do you notice with that? Because we have noticed that a lot of people seem to be putting a lot of putting all the eggs in one basket, focusing a lot on the plant medicine to the point of it becoming perhaps even perhaps toxic if it's overdone. Um, Putting the cart ahead of the horse in some situations, missing the point entirely. But that, who's to judge? But these are some of the conversations that Stephen and I have had. But what have you noticed in terms of cycles with that? Do you see a similar resurgence of thinking that was around in like the 60s and 70s? Now,
Definitely.
is it different? How is it different? Like what's
I
your
think people are more in tune with the consciousness once again within these elements, within this plant medicine.
Mm,
And that awareness has been around with indigenous tribes for millenniums.
mm,
And, we as new culture are experimenting with it again, and acid was big in the 60s, 70s. Marijuana, of course, was really large. Um, Mescaline, psilocybin were large, but different than it is today. And I
Yeah.
think that anytime we experiment with anything from spinach to psilocybin, as long as it becomes a tool, whether it's brief or there's a structured element to it, it's what do we feel about not only ourselves, but everyone else? Because it can be a great tool. I think that plant medicine can be an incredible tool. It helps people with some really traumatic events.
Yeah.
And I love the research that's happening with it now. MD Anderson, the giant cancer center here, is doing research with psilocybin.
mm,
Ibogaine has
And
been
with
part of
addiction,
mhm.
say again.
with
I
addiction.
well, it helps addiction. Yes, I mean the man that brought it to the United States in the 40s was a heroin addict,
Yeah.
Mm,
and just a friend kind of gave him some, and I mean he recognized after he had taken, he had no idea how much to take, took the whole thing, whatever this container was, woke up 4 days later and realized he wasn't addicted to heroin anymore.
Wow.
So research on these different plants, people are able to come about it in a completely different way. And I think it's going to help people move forward in their lives as long as it's a tool until it isn't and not the master. It's
yeah.
just
Right.
like our brain. It's a
Mm,
wonderful tool and a terrible master.
mm, mm,
Yeah. Yeah. That's really true.
And we
Yeah.
need it,
No.
and we need it. So,
mm.
I mean, we need to eat plants, and we need to learn from their consciousness.
Yes.
So the fact that people are learning that is amazing.
Mm.
Adam, I think I sent you the book, the name of the book, Light Eaters, and
Hmm.
it's all about plants and the studies that have stopped and started, like from 60s to the 70s to the 80s, and here we are, 2026, and people have kept a movement alive, learning and
Yeah.
listening and watching. observing nature once again.
Mm.
So, does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I love that.
I think we have a lot to learn. I mean, the first experience I had with it, spinach electricity it kind of blew me away. I mean, I thought I had a short somewhere, I touched something, but it was spinach that was like speaking. And our food talks to us if we just listen.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
I think, especially in America, right? Adam and I have traveled. Pat, I don't know if you've traveled, but it's like, in different parts of the world, um, like the food just tastes different or like it looks different, right? And here, like I feel like when I go to the grocery store here, it looks like it's like been like printed out from like a copy machine or something,
It's
you
kind of a
know?
megalith here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, unfortunately, right? And whereas abroad, it's like I see such a diversification in seeds and just like the texture, the food looks more real, especially when it comes to produce. And so it's really cool to see that you've been experiencing this for a while now. And something I learned abroad, which growing up in America, just in my experience, I thought drugs were medicine,
Mhm.
right? And then interacting with different people, I was taught, no, like food is also a really powerful preventative medicine, right? And also active medicine too, if you have some sort of condition or whatever as well. So what do you think about that? Just like, because that was like an awakening for me, just in changing my perspective. And
I
we're
think
talking about different medicines.
traveling really opened up my eyes to once again to how families interact and how food is such a big part of relating to each other. And the food tastes different because in other countries, they don't allow some of the things that we allow. And in other countries, they have more ritual around preparing food.
Mm.
And it's within that ritual of getting ahead of weeds and turning them into horta in Greece is it's special.
Yeah.
There's a lemon from the tree. There's in Mexico, there's papayas, there's pineapples that just fall in your lap. I mean, all those things are reverence. And I
Mm.
think that the reverence that goes into food we feel. So
Yes.
I experience that a lot in other countries. The communities are smaller. The grocery stores are tiny. If
Mm.
it's a neighborhood here, it's a neighborhood here. That was our thought with co-op, have it be really a neighborhood participation spot where we were getting great food. And then we come back together the next week and then there it is again and we get to make more stuff. I think people coming here really appreciate the variety that we have and are blown away by our grocery stores. But do we need an aisle of dry cereal? Do we I I don't
Yeah.
quite understand that.
It's excessive.
It is.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot to jump in there, and then we still have to come back to where we are right here, and how can we use food as our medicine to where it's nourishing our souls and our bodies? Because yes,
Yeah,
it can be a great preventative, and it can kill us.
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's sort of the opposite of stillness. We, especially in North
Mhm.
America, are so addicted to convenience and
Mhm.
immediate gratification, and that sort of ends up being our karma, that we end up being so sick because we're addicted to having things quick, and then all these quick, readily available, shelf stable things are not actually good for our bodies, and that's where we pay the price. So it's kind of like there are no shortcuts in nature. That's how I look at it anyway. So trying to save some time on the front end actually ends up costing us on the back end when we're laid up sick with an illness that's come from consuming these highly
And
processed foods.
that thought is what actually started the co-op because I mean, we were eating organic food. It was expensive at Whole Foods. So we wanted to have a more reasonable option for everyone. And and we wanted potatoes year round. We wanted apples year round. That's not a local product.
Mm.
So, it's like taking our thoughts and utilizing the thought into something that's functional, and then narrowing that down to as much as we can to be still and to be here and to eat what's available and eat less, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
So it's fascinating how it all, rolls into this big giant ball of energy instead of this little tiny one that's this megalith grocery store.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of a large thread there, but it
Yeah.
is what you say. And stillness takes us back to feeling our food and feeling ourselves in a different way
Yeah.
and listening. Do I really need to eat this cinnamon roll? No. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just listening in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like when I
Very.
was younger, I got like people was like, oh, salt, like your cholesterol, and like, Cheerios would lower your cholesterol. And it's just like, and I feel like as we've gotten older, it's like, no, it's like, it's highly processed sugar and,
Yeah.
and everything that is, like you said, the cereals in the aisle. Like, it's like, there's no whole foods in those. It's mostly just sugar. Right.
And that's
And
from today. If you
yeah,
look at ingredients that went into Cheerios when they first started, they weren't that bad.
yeah,
Mm.
It has just shifted over these decades into what they are now.
yeah,
It's really it's interesting to see, like, even Gatorade, how it started and then what it is today.
Mm.
I see people with these big things of like blue or neon green Gatorade, and I'm like, heck, that's some
Yeah.
watermelon and lime and mint,
yeah. Coconut
electrolytes.
water. Yeah. Coconut
Yeah,
water.
and
Something
coconut
else.
water.
Yeah.
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 So, I mean, there's just these elements that we have to look at everything. I think permaculture is a wonderful thing to study. My
Yeah.
my oldest daughter studied that, and I think that's what got us all more on a path, or and me kind of back on a path. It's sustainable for mankind, for nature. It's really paying attention to what happens.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I have hope where like a lot of the younger generations are recognizing that, like, a lot of the things that we were told um aren't true, as children, and that's exciting, right? Where the
Yeah,
curtain kind of falls, and you don't have to take things as they are. And I think, a lot of people are trying to change things, right? Trying to put their best foot forward when it
yes,
comes to this. And I see it a lot, especially where, I'm in Maine, and so it's really beautiful. Adam was
mm,
here, right? And so like our neighbors are organic farmers, and,
Yeah.
like my parents give them
right.
chicken eggs, and they give, some organic food to it's just like, yeah, it's just like community helping
It's an
community.
exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah, a barter system, and it's more
Yeah.
localized, and it's
Mhm.
yeah, it's with love. Like, we know those people, we love those people, and I think that's a beautiful exchange. I think the one hurdle I see a lot of people is just, yeah, like the economics of it. It's like, a lot of people can't afford land as easily as they could maybe 30, 40 years ago.
Mm.
That's kind of like the biggest hurdle I see, is just people have the desire, I think, to have kids even, or, to start families, or, to do these things. But it's just like, it's the economics of it, I think, is the crux of it. But I think, again, the answer to all that is community. It's like, what do you have, and what can you offer? Is it knowledge even,
And you
just
offer.
to,
Yep.
yeah, just like your skills and your talents to do that exchange,
And if
you
somebody
know?
has 40 acres and somebody can come and, put in a few hours helping to get something planted or taken care of, mulch, there's work everywhere.
Yeah,
Mm.
People need help.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it's using all ages of wisdom. I mean, to watch a 3-year-old put build a structure, and to ask an 80-year-old what they experienced during the war, I mean, you're going to get these elements that are nature and are all happening at the same time.
Yeah,
Mm.
And
yeah,
there's constant learning and
yeah,
sharing and growing. And being together in a way that keeps us together instead of saying, over there, that person over there, they did this.
Mm.
Instead of, wow, that is so cool. How did you do that? And, just
Yeah.
there's just these ways we come together because we can.
Yeah.
Why
Right.
not?
Yeah. Yeah. No, some
And
of my favorite conversations are between generations, right? And it's just like I feel like historically, I'm sure, maybe you've experienced with this older generations where, when you were a child, Pat, where it's just like, oh, like I know better than you, and you think people have it all figured out, but it's like you get older and you realize no one has it, has all the answers. But there's
Yeah.
wisdom in children, and there's wisdom in experience, and there's wisdom, being young, right? In the middle of your life, and there's wisdom in all of it, and I think, yeah, we can learn. We can always learn from each other, and I think we're getting better at it. I think the problem with, or not the problem, but like a benefit of the internet, and I know that there's a lot of cons as well, but I think the benefit is just there is a raised awareness of a lot of this stuff, where
Definitely.
beforehand, I don't know if that was true, where it's like, you got Walter Cronkite on the news, and that's how my grandparents got the
Yeah.
news,
Yep.
and like that's how you got your information, was like through that channel, and whereas now, for better for worse, there's so much knowledge, there's so much information, maybe too much information, coming from a lot of places, but hopefully people are using their discernment. But I think there is an increased awareness of just change has to happen, and what's going on now isn't sustainable. It's not sustainable for the planet, right? And I think to be caretakers of this world is crucial for the things to come. And I think a lot of pushback is like, well, it's the way it's always been, or it's too hard to do that, or there's not enough money for that. But one of my favorite all-time things, and another roots analogy, right? But it's like planting the seeds that of the trees that you're not going to sit
Yeah.
under, right, in the shade that you're not going to reap, but your
Yeah.
grandchildren or the children after you will.
That's right.
And I think for any society, hopefully ours, and I see it all around, where there is hope, despite whatever the institutions are doing. There's localized hope, which is like amazing. There's community hope around me, and I hope it's in other parts of the country, but in my immediate experience and vicinity, that's really exciting, and to see that. And so I don't know, do you have hope
I
for
have
what's to
hope.
come? Yeah.
I have hope. I have hope every time I look in someone's eyes
Yeah.
because they're still here. No matter what they're experiencing, they're still here. I
Yeah.
see it in children's eyes. I see it in old people. When I say old people, older people, elderly people, when they light up when their grandchildren walk in the room, or someone, there's just this sharing that happens. When we love, we just love. That's where hope grows,
Yeah.
is in each other's eyes and in each other's hearts. And it's, doesn't mean that sadness doesn't hit. It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
tragedy doesn't hit. It's trauma is a way to go in, like you're talking
yeah.
about your Achilles surgery.
Yeah.
And what a way to look at it, is a way to be different and experience it for as long as you experience it. I mean,
Yeah.
an injury, I used to say, I need a break. I need a break. And yeah, I got them.
I got it.
I fall and get a concussion, or break my wrist, or, break
Yeah.
a foot, and then,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I
Yeah.
know.
But
Always
The
love
more.
is a big element, and the love that we feel in our heart, not just, this piece, but when these two, our heads and our hearts speak together, then that's where that ball of energy that goes out into the room, that feeds people, and that feeds us. It's very cyclical, that infinity, the eight, the
Mm.
loops touching each other. I mean, it just grows. There is no time. There is no
Mm.
time. It doesn't exist.
It's powerful. And I think I love the example of creating it. You know, you just went for it and created it in community in Houston. And I mean, if you can do a co-op and have community gardens in Houston, which is a big, a big
It's a
city,
big place.
a lot of roads. I
Uh-huh.
feel like it
A lot of cars. Yep.
can be done anywhere, right?
Yeah,
And perhaps
absolutely.
even, because and in certain communities still existing, the problem existing of the like the food deserts, as it's sometimes explained, in where there's economic disparity and not a decent grocery store within a reasonable distance for certain neighborhoods, and how that's usually broken down by class, and sometimes the expression also in race, and so it's like those are tough situations. And uh, if people can do that, though, like you did, that's I think that offers a lot of hope as well.
Mhm. And there's like one of my favorite coffee shops is trying to, or they're working with a group, two young women who have started a company that is their main focus is to work on food insecurity
Mm,
and people having good food at different times, different places during the week that's
mm,
reasonably priced,
Yeah.
cool.
and agriculture and learning. And so there's hope there. I think that's the biggest element of hope is seeing what other people are just saying, I can make a difference here. I can make a difference here. I have all these, I have, a prolific amount of pomegranates and I'm just going to put them on the street and let people take them.
Yeah.
It's just, there's just a way to share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking
And
Yeah.
about last.
you guys sharing your hearts is a big piece, and being young enough and available and vulnerable enough that you can invite an old woman on your show and have someone who experienced a sweat lodge and a a vision quest. I did a vision quest, so I was
Mm,
very tapped into everything he was saying.
mm,
It's these remarkable experiences fill us,
mm.
and that's another element of hope, being filled. Watching my grandchildren ignore me now. I mean, my granddaughter, we used to have a date every week, my grandson and my granddaughter. And I think she was probably, 12 or 13, just getting into that really lovely girl, teenager age. And she goes, Yaya, there is going to come a time where I won't want to be around you. And I said, well, I'm going to soak up every second until that day comes. And when it comes, it sucks really bad. But then
Yeah.
I get to watch her be. I get to watch my grandson be and do really stupid things that and then just work their way through them. And they always love me and they always text me. And it's just lovely.
Yeah.
That's
And then they're
amazing.
gonna hit their 20s and they're gonna be want to be your best friend again.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta I did really stupid stuff, dangerous
Yeah.
stuff. And,
Yeah.
I yeah,
Yeah. They're the best teachers, the
they're the
mistakes,
best
right?
teachers.
That's
Yeah,
probably my biggest gripe with the school systems at large. It's just that like they penalize kids for failure, or they
yeah,
they they make us afraid of failure, right? When I'm
yeah.
like, oh, like failure is such
Oh,
the best
no.
teacher.
Yeah.
Teacher, yes.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
whole other discussion. It's just our education system. I mean,
Yeah.
it's designed for kids to fail. Not everywhere, because teachers are amazing and are doing the
Right.
best they can within the
Right.
systems they're in.
Right.
Mm,
And I asked my grandson the other day, he was talking about a particular committee, and I said, "But is it by design?" I can't remember what section of government we were talking about. I said, "Is it designed to fail?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah, I am holding on to the thought that there's good intention there." And I said, "I am going to start holding that thought with you because I do not see it and I really
mm,
want to. So I try to see things through y'all's eyes, through his eyes,
Yeah.
through, people who are more physically able to do. I don't get to physically do the things that I used to do. And it doesn't make me happy, that I can't
Mm.
and or won't or whatever, that I don't have the same strength that I did when I was lifting 40-pound bags of cabbage and stuff like that. It's there's I have to look for my hope not elsewhere because it's in me, but I get to validate it, I guess, through your eyes,
Mhm.
through listening to y'all, to listening to them. It's there.
Yeah.
Wow.
When we're seeing like our generation, like I feel like coming into power, honestly, it's just like,
Definitely you are.
and we're I don't know, I feel like we've been knocked on. Adam and I are both millennials, and I feel like millennials have gotten I don't know, just within the media, whatever you want to call it, just like the short end of the
Every
stick.
generation gets a bad rap. I will tell
Totally.
you that. Yeah.
Totally. It's just as again the cycles,
Yeah.
right? It's just the
Cycle.
Yeah.
cycles. It's just a cyclical thing. But as we're seeing more and more people come to power, it's like what gives me hope is I feel like more of our generation is of service, right? And
Yes.
understands that to be in power, but to treat it as a public service and in service of of the people that you're serving is good. Like the power can be good too. Power doesn't necessarily have to
Definitely.
mean like this awful thing. Like you can have power to serve others as well. Ideally, I feel like that's the best case. And
Your
that's really heartening
generation is
too.
good at questions too. Your generation
Yeah.
is good at questioning.
Yeah.
We didn't really learn to question a lot. We were told what to do and, we did it.
Yeah.
And that was the way. And that's why things got so bucked back in the 60s and
Yeah.
70s. That's where the whole hippie thing came. It was just, kill the
Why?
machine, fight the man, the man's out to get you. And so y'all ask questions because that's where you can take that information and turn it into something that flowers instead of dies.
Mhm.
Because I'll be 75 in a few weeks. It's, you know, it's, time here is short.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
y'all can
Yeah.
make things really flower from anything I've said,
Yeah.
whether it's brilliant, stupid, whatever, you can make things flower.
Yeah.
Yeah. A different understanding of power, I think, which is like not needing to have power over someone else, like
Yes.
doing away with the concept of hierarchy and redefining power as power is something valuable when it's power shared with others, power used with others, like really understanding community, expanding on the concept of and definition of self, and to include everyone
Yeah,
rather than
definitely.
the ego self.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like too for our generation specifically, where it's like we have context where it's like I feel like the young kids today, it's like they just grew up in a technological world, and we grew up early enough in it where where it's like all these crazy changes that are only getting faster,
Mhm.
in our society. It's like we have context of what life was like before, and we also know how to navigate to our best degree, to the best that anyone can kind of navigate this stuff and all how fast things are changing. We have context of before and after, whereas like helping my parents set up their printer the other day, and
Huh?
they had no idea what they were doing, and it's like okay, like I can step in and help you there, but it's just like I think that's yeah, like that context is of what life was like before, and how it's still changing after, because and you see like reading scores with the young kids now, it's like it's too much technology, it's too
Yeah,
much of this
it's
stuff,
true.
and hopefully you know I hope that people, going back, maybe it's like needs to go back to pen and paper, sometimes in the classroom.
Yeah.
I still do
There's a
that.
there's I mean, there's ancient studies about what the physical act of writing actually does for your
Yeah,
brain,
Mm.
yeah,
and writing with your non-dominant hand, what
Mm.
yeah,
that actually does for your brain. It's like I do listen to audiobooks. And then I also have a book. I have at least one, if not three books that I read as well because it's a different element.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's activating things, and y'all are good at, y'all being your age group is good at that,
Yeah.
because you did come in early enough to, you probably experienced, pick up, landline telephones,
Yeah.
probably the end of that, but
Yeah.
you have seen enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
My prediction is that this age demographic is just going to be so crucial for how the future goes in our society, right? Around the world, perhaps as well, but especially for right now, that's just my prediction is that Gen Z as well, but I think unfortunately for the younger kids, I think it's just a lot of technology, and I don't know if my attention span would be good if I was brought up with an iPad in front of me from the get-go.
yeah,
I don't know what I would do with that, but I think, yeah, hopefully that gives me hope. That gives me hope for us. It's just that, I think, yeah, we have something to say, and yeah, we've seen things gone wrong a lot of our lives, right? Yeah,
yeah,
I've been a, you know, I was 6 years old when 9/11 happened. It's like, it's like I've been a part of
yeah,
war for
yeah.
most of my life, and we've been out of war for 2 years and then back into another one. It's just like,
Mhm.
I'm not alone when I see that gets us nowhere, and how and what that money could have used or been used in different ways, and the lessons that we use, and so yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, I do have a lot of hope, and I am excited for things to come, because I think this the perspective is powerful, to just where we just we how we came into this earth, right? Just where
Yeah,
we sit,
definitely. Oh,
you know.
wow, what a miracle,
Yeah,
that we even showed up here. I mean, just us as individuals.
right,
Wow. All
right.
the millions of systems that had to happen just for that to happen.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. I call
You
it the
know,
cosmic lottery.
man, no kidding. And then,
Yeah,
all these systems that are happening all the time. Wow.
yeah,
To appreciate that we just breathe, that our
yeah,
heart pumps, that all those things are just awesome, and awe in the sense that, my goodness, we get to experience it. That's what
Yeah.
we came in to do, truly,
to
was to
Yes.
experience.
experience
Yeah,
and love.
agreed.
Yeah. Fall back into that awareness and remember gratitude because, yeah, at the end of the day, what's it all about? We're got
What a
front row
trip.
seats.
Yeah. What a
Yeah,
great ride.
yeah. I know. Pat, any closing thoughts? Anything you would I'd like to leave people with? I really appreciate your conversation and your
Mhm.
wisdom. When and even while being a student, we're still students of life, all of us.
We
But
are.
anything you want to leave people with, a lot, yeah. As we kind of wrap
Hug
things up
people.
here.
Hug
Yeah,
people.
Mm.
Not just
Yeah.
one of those hugs. Really give somebody a hug.
yeah,
You learn a lot from that
yeah,
about yourself and about the other person.
yeah,
It Hug people, you know, look at love in a way that's more than just, hey man, I love you. It's like, look at love. Look at nature and see how it loves without saying, I love you.
Mm.
It just is. So I think when we love and then we give somebody a hug, or we make somebody food, or, we pick up the phone and call, or turn around to somebody and say, oh my gosh, your hair is so cool, or it's just how it, that's love. Just
yeah,
experiment with love. Yeah.
yeah,
Why not?
Beautiful advice.
yeah. It's easier. It's
Y'all are
easier.
amazing.
Thank you. You are as well. You are as well. And
Beautiful.
folks, if you like what you heard, please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things that help us out that are free. Share with a friend, engage with us. We really, really appreciate it. And Pat, we are really grateful to you for just spending some time with us here. And yes, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here. Yeah, Adam, any closing thoughts before we wrap things up here?
Yeah, just encourage anyone listening to share the conversation, to hear Pat's wisdom. That was really, really valuable. And really, really special to me. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat, for being here.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank
Thank-
y'all.
Yeah. Thanks so much.